Yes, I am Diane Paul. I'm the Vice Chairman of Bridgend Lifesavers Credit Union, and I also work full-time as the Head of Administration and the Mental Health Outpatients Manager based in Bridgend, and that's for Abertawe, Morgannwg University Health Board. As such, the Parallax report was of great interest to me for several different reasons. Firstly, as originally an NHS employee in the finance department and board member of the original Lifesavers Credit Union. Secondly, the experience of a mutual merging of credit unions between Lifesavers Credit Union and the community Bridgend Credit Union. And thirdly, now I work within mental health and I'm still on the board of the new Bridgend Lifesavers Credit Union. Now, today I'm going to talk about payroll deductions, and if you're hoping I have the answers to all of your questions, I'm afraid you're going to be very wrong there. What I can do, though, is give you the experience of the Bridgend Lifesavers Credit Union, and I can take you on our journey, okay? Hopefully, you'll leave today with something to take home with you and maybe to build on for your own payroll experiences. As the Parallax report states, every credit union is different, regardless of size, membership or cash flow. So obviously, my journey will be different to yours. And to my colleagues here within the NHS, very often I will refer to my health board as a trust. But as it is a journey, we did originally start off as a trust, and as that journey progresses, we do become the health board. Lifesavers Credit Union was set up as a payroll deduction credit union. It was run by the employees for the employees of Bridgend and District NHS Trust. Although we followed the then FSA rules, abided by our policies and procedures, did everything correctly, we pretty much kept ourselves to ourselves. We didn't go to chapter meetings, we didn't attend annual conferences. But even so, it grew quite quickly, and in large, due to the champions we had amongst all the directorates within the NHS Trust at the time. I noticed we mentioned earlier about champions down on the ground floor. Some of our champions actually included the chairman of the trust, human resources and payroll director, nurses, administration, and most importantly, which I'll go on to a little bit later, was the payroll and the finance department employees. We were cash rich at the time, and we had almost zero overheads. Everything was done in our dinner times, before work, after work, that type of thing. Members who had loans almost never defaulted. It was very, very rare. I think we probably, in our whole time, we probably had like 2 defaulters, and they actually left the trust. So obviously we didn't have any need of credit agencies, debt collectors, or any other type of overheads. After all, these were our colleagues. We worked side by side with them every day. Nowadays, obviously, our current credit union ensures that every loan is taken out on its own merit. We ascertain all the risks, and they're all defined to ensure that we do have a proper return. There's no distinction now between a community and a payroll member. But then, the majority of our payroll members were all savers, and borrowers were only allowed loans up to 3 times their savings. Incidentally, at the time, before we merged, we actually had a 3% dividend, which was absolutely fabulous, at that time. Because obviously, if anybody defaulted, it would have an effect on their dividend. So it's one of the reasons we had such a good dividend. We held our monthly business meetings in our dinner time, as I said. And they were held in the Chief Executive's office at Trust Headquarters. This was because, obviously, the majority of board members all worked in Trust Headquarters, and it was convenient, that type of, you know what it's like. But As the trust merged with our neighbours, Neath Talbot NHS, Neath Talbot NHS Trust, it was then called Llanhafren NHS Trust, positions within the organisations changed, obviously. Board members were moved across the expanded geographical area, and soon it became apparent that we were not going to be able to sustain an effective board, working long distance from each other. So what we did, we mutually agreed to join the then community Bridgend Credit Union. That was based, very locally as well. And I was the only member of Lifesavers that actually went over onto the board. Now I'm pleased to say that we have several past and current NHS employees on the board, and they're all extremely professional people. Further down the line, we merged with Swansea NHS Trust, and ultimately became an extremely large university health board. When we initially merged with Neath Talbot, as a credit union, we took the decision not to encroach on Neath Talbot's employees, even though obviously, as you know, the common bond would have allowed us. If an employee from Neath Talbot approached us, then obviously we wouldn't refuse them, but it's not something that we actively did. This goes the same as well for the now Swansea employees. We certainly don't encroach, and certainly not actively. But as again, we never refused. Now, the Parallax report gives the figures for Bridgend, and it does actually state there are 15,000 employees in ABM. We only seek for the membership of 7,000 to 8,000 of those, because they are based in the Bridgend area. So, as 8,000 employees, I can't work out the percentage on that, but what the report doesn't actually state, and it might surprise a few of you, is that's bringing in £82,000 per month, which is obviously averaging over £1 million savings a year. And by actively not encroaching on Swansea, Neath and Port Talbot employees, what we felt at the time is we didn't want to disadvantage our fellow credit union neighbours, because they may be possible future members to them, obviously. Now, sometimes I do wonder, from a personal point of view, was this decision a mistake on our behalf? But as you grow with the credit union, you obviously become very aware that that is the ethos of credit unions. We are friends at the end of the day. And maybe that's a question for debate at a later time. The common bond, it's Leslie's report shows the map of the health boards and, of course, the credit unions. And as you know, those lines constantly overriding each other. And I think you have to make the decision on whether or not you do encroach upon your neighbours. Obviously now, due to the IT infrastructure in ABM, in my own health board, there are no longer distinctions between hospital sites. Employees travel from one hospital to the other, regardless of which area they live in. And obviously all the health board employees can access the intranet, and we all get the same pay packet. And obviously you can attach leaflets. You can't say the leaflets can only go to certain areas in Bridgend. It has to go to the whole health board. I won't go through the benefits of payroll deductions. I think you're all very much aware of it. But we do, however, require feedbacks of our payroll members. Most say that they would never have had, I have a quote here, they would never have saved if it didn't come directly from their pay. And another a little aside, a lot of our payroll members often treat it as a secret bank account, and they use their savings for special occasions, anniversary, Christmas, holidays, with their own partners, obviously, but their partners at the time when they're saving don't actually realise they have this money there. And as we've previously mentioned as well, it's there for their breakdown of their cookers and their washing machines. It's a lovely way to save. There are side effects as well of payroll deductions, some that have come out during the past years. When members take out a loan, obviously they increase their payments to us, continue to save, and to pay for their loan. Obviously, when the loan is paid, most often continue with that same amount, that same high amount. So their savings increase and they grow rapidly, which is lovely, really lovely. It is essential, though, that when you do approach a health board or one of the smaller trusts, and if you do set up a payroll deduction scheme with any of them, you continue to keep close ties with the payroll master and the employees in the payroll department. Some of you may be aware that the NHS is currently going through shared services. This means that the NHS payroll department is becoming one department for the whole of Wales. So it's servicing every health board. This may be good news for the credit unions. I don't know, because obviously, ultimately, if the payroll departments are working together as one team, then obviously you have somebody paying Ceredigon's salary, and opposite them you have somebody paying Bridgend's salary. So they do get to know all about credit unions, the payments, and obviously it's all already been set up. I know with Bridgend we do keep very close ties. Our general manager and our office workers, they all know them by name. Some people may feel that with larger organisations that it is actually faceless, nameless, autonomous perhaps working in these bigger organisations. But myself, I've worked in finance for 10 years, and I can tell you they're not. They're very personable, approachable, professional people, and they do work together as a team. Obviously, guidelines, as I say, they have to be set on both sides. This is a partnership at the end of the day. So you need to realise, as a credit union, that if you are paying the wages of 15,000 employees, the pay isn't done the day before, obviously. They have deadlines. If, for example, their cut-off for credit union amendments is the 12th of the month, then if you give in the form to do an amendment on the 13th, you've then missed that deadline. So it won't go into their pay whenever, say the 28th of that same month. It'll go in the next month. To some, obviously that seems like 2 months, but it's not the fault of the NHS, it's not the fault of the credit union. Maybe your ties weren't close enough to realise that that cut-off date was the 12th. They can't withhold the pay just for the credit union. Same with travelling expenses and overtimes and all the enhancements that the NHS obviously has to deal with. Last piece of information, obviously, is really important. On termination. Now, unfortunately, well, fortunately actually, confidentiality does come into play with all type of things, as you know. We have to ensure that when an employee leaves, when an employee leaves the organisation, the payroll department obviously cannot inform us because of confidentiality. Not only that, they may not be actually aware that this person has a loan. So it's something that we need to work upon, which is number one on our priority list. But also, if we could find out if an employee is leaving, hopefully that employee would tell us. They usually do. What we can do is advise the employee that's leaving to continue to be a credit union member. As I say, we are a community-based credit union. They can use our community collection points. They can use one of our own 3 branches. Many other different ways, direct debits they can pay into, or standing orders, I should say. But obviously, if the employee is retiring, we could also co-opt them onto the board. I don't know if some of you are aware, but nursing staff within the NHS, mental health nursing staff within the NHS, actually have what they call mental health status, and they can retire at 55. Now, obviously, that's a little bit too young to be put out to pasture, and it's certainly not too young to come onto the board of the credit union. I think somebody said this morning their average age was 87. Well, 55-year-old nurses, we can obviously utilise their skills and experience they've built up over the years. Now, as I say, it is a partnership, and we do have to communicate, and I think that's extremely important when you are dealing with any organisation. Keep those lines of communication open continually. I can also see that the Parallax report is asking for NHS organisations to open their doors for office space and collection points. Now, in our experience, we don't need this as payroll employees, simply because obviously it comes straight from our pay. What we do need, actually, is somebody within the hospital, and we get this. The NHS do allow our collection agents to sit in the hospital, and this is to help the NHS employees to complete forms, apply for loans, set up new savings accounts, even child savings accounts, anything that they want. Once a week, somebody from our credit union will be there. It's widely advertised, and they know they can go to them at any time. They have their number. Obviously, we do online, but not a lot of people want to do that nowadays. Obviously, and as I said, I can't cover the whole of the report, but I can only do something, parts of it. Now, obviously, you think that because I work within mental health, I still have something to say about the financial exclusion of patients with mental health conditions, such as stress, and the advantages of the credit union would give them. Unfortunately, I work in admin, I'm sorry, and that type of information is well out of my remit. I couldn't comment on anything such as clinically as that. What I will say is that frontline staff working on the wards are there, and they to promote them to speak to our patients within mental health would be a great advantage. I don't know how we'd start something off like that. We already have champions within the NHS, and I think when you do get an NHS employee, maybe you could start off by asking them, would they like to champion them, particularly if you find out if they are a nurse, and a mental health nurse particularly, and if they can, point out the advantages of savings plan. And obviously, our employees, I do strongly believe that if an employee within the NHS does have a savings plan through the payroll deduction, this is obviously going to relieve any stress within the workplace. And one of the NHS government targets at the moment is to reduce sickness levels. And obviously, financial well-being is a massive, has a massive impact on stress and on all that type of, the sickness that goes with it. They don't actually come out and say it's because I don't have any money, but the stress is all added to it, as we've all discussed continually today. Now, in conclusion, ladies and gentlemen, partnerships can work, but they do need a lot of work. And I thank you all for listening to me and being interested in our journey of the Bridgend Lifesavers Credit Union.